first of all, having me here. Really happy and honored to be inducted today with lots of legends, especially the 21. I was like so impressed by everyone, but also 2020 and of course all the years before. Yeah, I want to tell you my story because some of you might not know me. I was born in 1974 in Munich, and for me, biking started pretty early with a BMX bike, similar than colleagues before and many others. And I was getting into BMX racing in 1983 when I was 9 years old, and and BMX was pretty much everything for me at the time. I grew up in the Olympic Park in Munich. That's where they had the local BMX track, and I made a bit of a career there in Germany and rode different championships and won German championships but then actually in 1991 I had a phone call to do a photo shoot, mountain bike photo shoot. I'm like, oh, mountain bikes, yeah, I know mountain bikes, and why not? My mom was a little bit worried because I was just 60, 70 years old, and she's like, you're going on a photo shoot? She dropped me at the train station and was a bit worried because photo shoot as a teenager, it seemed weird, but yeah, all good. It was just a mountain bike photo shoot. So
now it's weird.
And it was with KTM bikes and Puck bikes, so two Austrian brands at the time. This was in Sölden, Austria. Funny enough, they were a pretty big resort these days. And then slowly developed. Year after year, I did more and more of those shoots. And I was still racing BMX actually. BMX was still that passion for me. But I got more and more into mountain biking. Then you will see also actually in 92 I was fourth in the world champs at the time riding for McDonald's, which was pretty funny. It was my first proper sponsor in BMX. At that time I also did shoots, and Portugal was like the first place, big place I went to for 1 week shoot. And then it was like actually free riding at that time already. I would jump off cliffs into sand dunes and do stuff that I never thought I would be doing it, because I was actually, originally I was worried of heights, funny enough. But later on I would drop off 20-foot cliffs and so on. So then in those years I also did shows. In end of 92, I went to Bike Magazine, introduced myself to Germany's Bike Magazine, Uli Stancio, who's also part of the Hall of Fame, and I said, hey guys, if you want to work with me, I can ride bikes and maybe a little bit with a bit more style and do some tricks and jump and so on. And he respected that and invited me to a shoot to Spain, to the Canary Islands, only a few months later. And it was pretty funny because at the time, you see that cover on the top, that's from exactly that shoot. It's like a cover from 93. I'm in tight pink pants. Everything pretty not cool if you compare it to today. And but at the time it was okay. But it was cool because I had pants on. Actually, I was wearing band shoes, and that was kind of odd because the next shoots, they said, well, you can come back to bike shoot with us, but you have to be clipped in. You cannot wear flat pedals, and you have to shave your legs. Well, I was pretty good at adapting, and that's what I did. So just in order to do that, and a few years later, everything changed, and I didn't need to change that to shave my legs, and I could wear baggy pants and flat pedals and man shoes again.
Were they pink?
Well, what, later on?
Yeah.
they were pink then. Later on, well, I had some funny outfits for sure. Yeah, I kept racing BMX because it was a passion, but actually I financed the whole BMX racing with my mountain bike career. So I was on shoots, I was doing shows, I got sponsorship. I was picked up in '98 by Red Bull. At that time, actually originally for BMX racing still. In that same year, I was also team manager for Vans and Diamondback, but in Germany. And then in '99, I decided to stop with BMX. It was still, I grew out of it, and also in Germany, that was hard to have a real proper career. But mountain biking was really driving me, and I thought, well, I want to continue mountain biking. It's fun, and suddenly I could also concentrate on being with a brand that has not BMX and mountain bikes, but be like some brand. And I actually, because I was on GT in '98 and '99, and then GT dissolved the whole team in Germany. So I looked through magazines. I'm like, I saw actually the freeriders riding Rocky Mountain, and I was like, well, they're doing exactly what I'm doing. So jumping, riding down steeps and slopes and so on, and yeah, there we go. I called Rocky Mountain, Germany, and I knew the guy from events, Dirk Jans, and he's like, well, you know what, we have the freeriders, we don't need anybody. And a few months later, I went to La Rigarda Festival, and I saw Dirk again. I came with my portfolio, and my portfolio was not too bad, as you can see in the next slides. You can see it probably. But this is a bit more from those BMX times. You see the McDonald's outfit there. That shot is from '84, one of the first races in '84.
Hey, what year is that? Is that '87, right?
Which one? The one with the
McDonald's, right? '87. That's
Orlando. With the McDonald's, that's in '92.
'92. Okay.
Yeah, that was '92. The team really started in around '90. And yeah, and then yeah, you see here a few covers, and yeah, with those covers, I came also to talk to Dirk Jans at the Garda Festival, and he's like, oh, we got to do here something. So let's get you on Rocky Mountain. I'll talk to the Canadians, and we make it work. And from that moment on, I also met properly Richie Schley, Brett Tiffany, and Wade Simmons. They were over at Garda, and they came back to Munich, stayed with me. I got the first bike, and it was like everything from then like turned into like my proper mountain bike career. Before that, it was, you know, it was a mix of both, and from that moment on, it was even more fun. It was so much fun. We went, yeah, we traveled a lot. We went to different places. I mean, I traveled a lot before, but usually it was for catalog shoots or for magazine shoots, but it was not because I was, you know, Tarek Rasouli, a European freerider. I was like their Euro guy. And yeah, there's a few shots actually. I was really happy that he's here. And yeah, here to the right here. Yeah, anyways, then yeah, these are some shots. This was the adventures, more of the mushroom drop. Maybe some of you know it. I jumped that. In the first year, I had to kind of prove myself because I was new in the team. I didn't have the budget in that year because it was like during the season was like, okay, you get this bike, that's it. For next year, you get a proper deal, and it was fine because I had different other sponsors and Red Bull and so on. But I would always be the guy that wanted to go first and game pick, usually, especially when I was with Richie, Wade, and Tippy, because we were pretty similar level from riding. Wade was better riding some very technical steep lines. Tippy, of course, was always the guy that took down shoots and and places where I was like, okay, I don't do that, or flat drops or something. And anyways, this was good times. And then on top here in the middle, I'm sure you've seen those images with Hans. I went on an adventure with Hans to Cuba. This was amazing. And Hans is a dear friend from already in the 90s. We did stuff together. I remember on one of the poker films I was at the premiere, jumping in for Brian Lopes. And on the far left, that's actually a few days before my accident. This is Kamloops 2002. I was with Wade Ritchie and Thomas Vanderham was there. Tippy at the time was already on Specialized, I think. So then it was really a good amazing time, and the filming was really important. So I did in 2001 film for Crank 4, had a good segment, well actually 2 segments in the movie, and it was extremely fun going to Morocco with Tippy and another French guy, and then Richie, Wade, and Tippy. We were in Switzerland, and it was important to be in the movie because at the time there was no YouTube, there was no Instagram. It was the magazines, but the magazines was of course not enough. Like it was the movies which were really important, and there were only 2 real really outstanding movies, which was Cranked, and then you would also started a little bit later. And so I went, it was 2002, in July 2002, I went to Whistler, and it was like a coach, actually. Jeff Gullovich was one of the kids in the camp. I was the coach together with Thomas Vanderham and Wade Simmons and Richie. And then we shot for the Rocky catalog, and Anna was actually the main reason was to shoot for Crank 5. But it was really difficult to get a hold of Bjorn Anga, and at the time I didn't have a cell phone that worked in Canada, of course. And anyways, we reached each other eventually, and he asked me to come to Sun Peaks, and then I was like, okay, I do my best. I changed my ticket and come to Sun Peaks because they had a perfect spot there. They had the other riders were Johnny Waddell, Aaron Peters, and Dave Watson, and myself. So went there. Actually, it was a little funny because I arrived from Whistler, Sun Peaks, and when I arrived, they said the permit doesn't go through. We have to pack the car and go to a different site. And he had just one more meeting in the morning, but let's pack the cars and probably we have to go to Williams Lake or a different location. So he has the meeting and comes with a green light and says, hey, actually we have a green light, we can do now everything we want here, and let's go to the different spots. And we checked out different spots to get something built, and one of the spots was a dirt half pipe. We did a shoot on the afternoon. Actually, it was just Johnny, me, and Bjorn going up the chairlift. And I was sitting in the chairlift. It was a beautiful sunny day, and I said, "Oh, it's so beautiful here in the wheelchair." And I was like shaking. I'm like, in the chairlift, and they were laughing like, "You're in the wheelchair?" And but it's actually beautiful in the winter right now, by the way. And then I went. We were shooting some, let's say, more mellow lines, like just downhill riding and fast lines for about 2-3 hours. And then the first jumps were done at the halfback in Sun Peaks, and it was like end of day. And Johnny and I said, okay, let's check it out, and we wanna see what it looks like, and maybe already get in big and jump them. And that's what we did. Bjorn went down with the last lift, so he didn't even come and bother or didn't film. I was very anxious to do the jump first again, which was not extremely smart. Johnny was a better rider than me, I have to say, because he was a downhill pro at the time, also on Red Bull, and it was like super fast. I met him only once before in Australia, and but I wanted to go first. It was like my intuition was to do that jump, and it was like a jump into a half pipe. It was about 35 to 40 feet out, 10 feet down and to the left. So I hit down, step down, hit. I went, I went first, and I asked Johnny, what do you think? Like 1 or 2 pedal strokes? He's like, oh yeah, I would do 2. I did only 1 because my setup was different and was just rolling down the hill. And I jumped and I passed the landing, and went way too far and actually let go of my bike, which was also a mistake at the time, because usually when you jump and you land flat, you would maybe stay on your bike. But my wrists were 100%, my ankles were 100%, and my neck wasn't 100%. I had some falls in that year already, so I landed from about 20 feet up in the air on my feet, and broke my heel and my first lumbar vertebrae, and couldn't feel my legs anymore. So battery's running low. Okay, I think we gotta move on. We gotta get faster. Yeah. You wanna?
We good, Mark?
Yeah, maybe next slide. Then my life changed, of course. I had no idea where it's going to go or how it's going to go. But what I noticed, and what was really amazing, was I had amazing support. Support from people, emotional support, especially from the mountain bike industry. From people, I remember the first days, I think Rob MacAskill also came by the hospital in Vancouver. Of course, Richie, Tippy, Wade, and they came even also in Germany to the hospital. I remember they came once after Eurobike. They donated or they raised some money at Eurobike, like 6,000 euros. I was like super overwhelmed. And then Hans came by, Steve Bumke came by. It was pretty cool just to see like the constant support. And I was not any little bit bitter about mountain biking, because in the end it was my mistake. I was still stoked, and I was really into mountain biking. And because at the time when I stopped, just the first contest started. I did a couple of contests, some good, some not so good. Like I remember Red Bull ride in Australia. In the last practice run, I hurt my neck, so I couldn't finish or do the contest actually. Anyways, but I still had no idea what to do. I came out of it was 4 months in hospital and rehab. I came out, and the first proper meeting I had was in Bike Magazine, and they offered me a free editorial or editor position to do reports on events, on athletes, and they knew I had good connections and network over here. So I did this, like it's a double page called Dirt Bike, or Dirt Bike pages. And I remember going to Tarek Rasouli's home and doing a profile with him, or going to a Red Bull race down, or different events. And then I got a call from this Canadian guy that lived also in Munich, and we did. He asked me to do a movie premiere together. You will disorder. I think it was 3, like Ride the Lightning, and that was the first event I put on with him. And then the next thing was Urban Freeride event. He had Corey, his name was Corey Moore, and he had a location down in southern Germany where he knew the mayor, and that was right to the lake in 2004. He remembers the event probably quite well. I've seen a Laguna poster from there actually very recently of Kyle Strait where he jumps down. Unreal for me to still see that poster. It's like 18 years ago. Yeah, and Ride to the Lake was the kickstart for my career, my second career, let's say, and what I'm doing today. Because after that event, I mean, I looked after sponsorship, PR, and athlete invitation, and Corey looked after the course design and course build. And I got so many requests on doing events, but I had not really an idea how to do it. But I looked for a business partner. Corey had her own job, so I looked for a business partner to open a company, and that's when I found a Resolution originally with a friend of mine. She left the company in 2011, but that's it's Resolution and focusing on mountain biking. The reason for me, or the motivation in general for me, was to make the sport bigger, and especially on the athlete side, because as an athlete like myself, I was a pro athlete, but I was not, you know, well off or safe after my accident. Like I had to work and had to try and make a living at some point, or you know, as quick as possible. I had some insurance, but it was not enough. No pension or anything like that. And many athletes, athletes in any sport sometimes don't know their value. Then the sport was still so young and undeveloped in some way, but I saw that there's a huge entertainment point. Like people are entertained. There were already at the time millions of people that would look at it, whether it's in magazines or sometimes on television. And yeah, that's how I started. And so I started with Resolution, with events, with athlete management and communication services. So we, in 2005, also created Red Bull District Ride, which I don't know if some of you have heard of that event. I mean, some of you have heard of the event, I know. But it's something that was at the time already like, wow, 40,000 people we had on site in 2005. It happened beginning of September this year. Again, we had 120,000 people actually in total. We had 90,000 people on the final day on Saturday. Yeah, which you see in 2022. And yeah, in between there were of course a few other stations. You know, we signed athletes. Originally was like, our first athlete I think was Tron Hansen, then later it was Martin Söderström, Andrea Lapendeki, Danny MacAskill. We worked with him since 2009. So there's been, yeah, a little bit of, we were able to contribute, or I was able to contribute to the sport and support athletes, support brands, and support the vision to make mountain bike really bigger. Yeah, you see here some shots. Sometimes it's a challenge. Here you see a photo of me discussing with the riders. It's windy in the Olympic Park. It happened a few times. Some of you might have seen X Games. It was quite a big challenge. Bertha was there. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, in general, I mean, I'm extremely pleased and happy that I can be still on mountain biking. It's a different perspective for me, of course, but it's almost like I'm still riding. I'm riding through my athletes, but through athletes that are at our events, or through brands we work with, if it's video production or we communicate. For example, the UCI World Cup, we communicated for the last many years for Red Bull Media House, and yeah, it's like mountain biking is my life, really, I have to say. And yeah, here's new goals. I mean, new goals, same dreams. I mean, the goals today, I would say, is like just to spread cycling in general. I live in Munich, which is a big city, lots of cars, but also lots of cyclists. But for me, there can be way more bikes, more cyclists, and I want that people commute more with bikes and yeah, use really bikes for in their daily life way more than cars.